And hello and welcome to Open, the show that opens the Bronx and the rest of the world right to you. I am Darren Jaime, and today we'll update you on what's happening in and around our borough and New York City. Coming up, Medicaid services, and they actually serve millions of New Yorkers. But federal threats can put critical health care at risk. As HIV infections rise in New York, the fight to protect funding is becoming even more critical. We'll break down what it means for patients, providers, and communities across the state. Next, housing statistics reveal what's really happening in the Bronx and surrounding counties. The real estate market. Yes, we are breaking that down with rising prices, inventory levels, and what it all means for buyers and sellers heading into the spring market. And then in today's digital world, old passwords, exposed data. Yes, it can put your business as well as the individual at serious risk. We'll break down how organizations and even individuals can rethink risk and shut the door on threats hiding in plain sight. Lastly, March is Social Work Month, and across New York State, thousands of children are in need of stable foster homes. With a growing shortage of certified foster families and rising mental health needs among youth, we're going to take a closer look at what's happening and how social workers are stepping up, supporting children, families in crisis. So stay tuned, because all this and much more is heading your way. Right now, we're officially open. And hello, everyone. I am Darren Jaime, and you're now watching Open, a live program that's bringing the Bronx and New York City straight to you. We want to welcome our viewers to the Manhattan Neighborhood Network, as Open is being broadcast simultaneously on M&N channels. You can stay connected to us on all of our social media platforms at Bronxnet TV. Some things have been going on throughout the past week. We'll take you through it with some Bronx updates. In local news, New York City leaders are taking new steps to make child care more accessible and affordable for families. Mayor Zohran Mamdani visited Bronx Community College, announcing the campus will be one of the first sites offering free child care seats through the city's expanding 2K program. The initiative aims to support working families and student parents by providing early learning opportunities for 2-year-olds. Our Bronxnet reporter Chris Camilla has the story.
In a major step towards progressing universal child care, New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani, along with New York State Governor Kathy Hochul, have announced the first 4 communities that will be receiving free 2K seats in the fall. One of them is right here in the Bronx Community College's Children's Center, where the mayor is taking some time today to meet with teachers, youth, and Bronxnet for an in-depth look at what to expect.
We're going to be delivering this free child care to families that would otherwise have been spending more than $20,000 a year to find child care for one child for a single year. Now that's going to be something the city delivers, especially right here in this part of the Bronx.
The mayor, citing the city's high cost of living, identifies child care as one of the most major expenses for working families. This policy alleviates the issue, especially for parents pursuing a degree.
The group that we cater to are student parents that come to Bronx Community College, and so they are looking for a place where their children can come while they are going to school as well. And it's so great that this initiative opened so that it gives them an opportunity to do just that.
Seats are scheduled to become available in the fall, and the city plans to announce the application process in the early summer to ensure all eligible families have a chance to provide the most for their children at the least possible expense.
The best part of my job is looking at the smiling faces of the children and the smiles on the faces of the parents when they pick up their children, and the fact that they enjoy being here and they're happy and making a difference in the lives of children and families. And that's what we're here for.
In University Heights, Chris Camilla, Bronxnet Community Television.
And thank you, Chris. That is all the time we have for our Bronx updates. We are taking a quick break, but guess what? We'll have more open when we return. And welcome back. As New York State navigates potential federal cuts to Medicaid, Governor Kathy Hochul has proposed investing an additional $4 billion into the program, but advocates warn that early commitments may not be enough. For communities living with HIV and New Yorkers who rely on specialized care, the outcome of this budget process could have life or death consequences. Join me now in breaking down what these proposed cuts mean and what New York can do to protect its healthcare safety net. We've got Joe Pressley, who's Vice President of Public Policy, Government Relations at Amida Care. And Joe, thank you so much for joining us.
You're quite welcome. I'm glad to be here.
So usually around this time of year, I know a lot of organizations are really scrambling, really trying to say, listen, you know, if these budget cuts happen, how do we navigate? How do these things play out? When you see the numbers yourself, as we said, obviously it's not looking too good and you've got some concerns. What's the first thing that comes to mind?
Well, I'll tell you, I have to say thank you to Governor Hochul for her investment of $4 billion. I think it shows that the governor understands that Medicaid is extremely, extremely important to the residents of New York. However, thanks to the big, beautiful bill, the big, ugly bill, as many of us call it, there's actually about $13.5 billion in a deficit in terms of what the impact of H.R. 1 would cause on New Yorkers. And so when you look at the budget this year, there doesn't appear to be any cuts to Medicaid. We're concerned about the future. We're concerned about the devil's in the details, right? And so we're concerned that if you look at the budget, yes, no cuts, but we're concerned that providers' plans could take the cuts via rate reductions, rate negotiations, retroactive rate cuts. Those things will never appear in the budget, and those will happen as we move through the year. So we're very concerned. We're extremely concerned about the impact on New Yorkers.
So as you're looking at this impact, potentially, how do you see it playing out? Thousands, hundreds of thousands. I mean, how do you see the numbers? What do you see the numbers looking like?
In New York State, the estimation is that 1.5 million New Yorkers will be without Medicaid. Without Medicaid. Medicaid is the backbone of the healthcare industry infrastructure in this country. 1.5 million New Yorkers, 10 million across the country. It's just horrific. And, you know, for HIV and AIDS, which is the organization I work for, we work with people living with HIV and AIDS. It provides the backbone of care for people. Over 40% of people living with HIV depend upon Medicaid. It's going to be huge.
So if I'm a person that's outside looking in, how do I look at the budget process and say, listen, this is, you know, for lack of a better saying, how do I keep my eyes on what's happening here with this?
So what we've done at Amida Care, and Amida Care is a special HIV special needs plan, a Medicaid special needs plan. We're the largest special needs plan in the state. And for our 10,000 members, what we have done, we believe advocacy is extremely, extremely important. What we've done is formed a coalition across the state. We've put together a website, which is it's www.m4usny.org. And what we've done public ads. We're actually targeting the 7 members of Congress who are actually all Republicans who voted for H.R. 1. We're also going after the Democrats, saying that we need you to stand up and do the right thing for Medicaid. And so we've done ads, we've done legislative visits, we've done rallies, we've done organized protests, and it's making a difference. I mean, already we've seen some of the folks who actually voted for H.R. 1 sort of backpedaling and saying, well, we have to fix what we've done. And so it's a tip of the iceberg. We need much, much more. But the advocacy definitely works.
Yeah. When you look at what's happening right now, obviously New Yorkers are paying very close attention to everything that's happening because we know that New York has been a strong target of this presidential administration. And given the fact that lack of federal funding coming in many areas, how does New York State kind of like fill that gap, knowing that the federal funding is the way it's going to be? Because it's not just in your area,
100%.
but we know all across the board. But more specifically in your line item, how does New York State get to a place of really filling that gap?
We're trying to figure that out. I mean, H.R. 1, the big ugly bill, the big beautiful bill, whatever you want to call it, has created havoc, not only in New York, but across the country. And so state legislatures are working behind the 8 ball. And, my hat goes off to our legislators because they're trying to find a way to push back. And so can they fund it all? No. What has to happen, which is where our advocacy is focused on, is that the federal government has to repeal or fix what they have done. The pressure really has to be on the White House and on both houses of the U.S. Congress. And so we're putting pressure on Leader Schumer, Kristen Gillibrand, on Minority Leader Jeffries. We're making certain that the government does the right thing here. Right. Because New York can't fix it all. This is a mess that the federal government has created, and they cannot use the big, beautiful bill to take from the poor and basically give to the rich. This is the biggest transfer of wealth that this country has ever seen. Yeah. And that story has got to be told.
Take me behind closed doors for a minute to see the work that you're doing and others, right? We know that a lot of work goes in the HIV and AIDS field. What kind of numbers have you been seeing as of late in regards to decreases in infections, making things happen? Talk to me about the numbers that we're seeing right now, because this is going to play out when we add the dollars and cents in this.
That's a great question. I think many folks have been lulled to believe that HIV and AIDS is over. We have seen in the last 4 years a steady uptick in new infections. And we believe that because of government, again, the federal government sort of stepping in the wrong direction, we're going to see those rates even continue to escalate. And so we were at a point where, because of the new medications, because of PEP and because of PrEP, PEP is post-exposure prophylaxis and PrEP is pre-exposure prophylaxis. These are medications that are game changers when it comes to HIV and AIDS. They are bringing down viral loads. Those of us who are living with HIV get to live longer, and we don't have virus in our body to be able to spread the virus to other people. And those people who are HIV negative get to stay HIV negative. These are game changers. Medicaid pays for these medications. But again, if Medicaid is cut, then there goes what we saw as the light at the end of the tunnel in terms of ending this epidemic. Right. This president is doing injustice in terms of fighting this epidemic. The Congress is doing injustice in terms of fighting this epidemic, and we need to hold their feet to the fire.
Yeah. We've been hearing in New York State, of course, the push to really end HIV and AIDS by a certain deadline. Given the fact of what we're seeing and what we're knowing right now, give us some of a breakdown, racially, ethnically. What numbers are we seeing increases in, and is there anybody that's really seeing a decrease?
So Black and brown folks continue to be the brunt of this epidemic. We, people of color, continue to see rises in our cases. We make up the lion's share of HIV/AIDS cases. Black folks, 10-15% of the population, 40 to 50% of all cases. Same thing with Latinos. We see rises amongst women of color, gay men of color. It's just, it's continuing to increase. And here in the Bronx has seen the highest new infections of all the 5 boroughs.
Homelessness is also a big conversation piece here in New York City.
100%.
And for you guys, I know you guys are doing work as well. particularly for those who are in the transgender community. Share with us a little bit about the work that's going on there and how you're really trying to fill that gap.
100%. So, as I mentioned, Amida Care is a HIV special needs plan. We serve 10,000 members across New York City. Over 4,000, 5,000 of our members are people who identify as transgender or gender nonconforming. Many of those folks are HIV negative, and we work with them to embrace them, to make certain that they get the care and support that they need. It's no secret that the federal government has targeted the transgender community, has used them as scapegoats, has used them as ways to divert attention from other issues. We stand by our transgender members, not because they're members, just because they're members, but because they're human beings, and they deserve the care and treatment that they are seeking. And so, again, over 4,000 of our members are transgender nonconforming. Here in the Bronx, over 40% of those live right here in the Bronx. And we're doing all that we can to protect and enhance the services for them, even though the federal government is targeting them.
I have to let you loose after this one, but I got to ask you a question because you've been in this for a minute, and you've dealt with this. Budget cuts come, finances come, things come. Ever this bad?
No, never this bad. But I am confident that with advocacy, with keeping our eye on the prize, I guess quoting Jesse Jackson, keeping hope alive, we will make this go away, because it is extremely important that we realize that advocacy and organizing and educating communities is what will elevate us to high ground.
Yeah. Joe Pressley, good to have you.
Yeah, you too, brother.
Thank you so much for coming to take this time. Joe Pressley is the Vice President, Public Policy and Government Relations at Amida Care. Now, if you want more information, go ahead and visit the website at amidacareny.org. We encourage you don't go anywhere because we've got more open coming up right after this.
We're gonna start the show right now. This is my favorite part. Ready in 5, 4, 3, 2. Hey, this is Angel, and I am one of the instructors for the in-studio production. Here at Bronxnet, we offer classes that can help you elevate, expand, and start your television career. All you have to do is sign up at bronxnet.org/education. For the past 7 years, I have been in various productions, spanning from talk shows, independent films, news reports, art displays, teachings, musical performances, and many more. Ain't that right, Angel? Yeah, you're absolutely right, Angel. There are a lot of creative individuals that we're just waiting to sign up for the class. And if I may, can I also express Thank you, Angel. That's all the time we have left. Visit bronxnet.org/education and become a producer by taking the course. The class I offer is also in English, en español y también bilingüe. Nos vemos en la próxima clase.
And welcome back. As we move closer to the busy spring home buying season, new housing data is in, giving us a clearer picture of where the market stands across the Hudson Valley. Now, inventory remains tight in many counties, driving up prices and keeping competition strong. In the Bronx, the market offers more available inventory than surrounding areas, yet in still rising prices and ongoing affordability challenges. Joining me now to talk about the latest breakdown in the numbers, we've got for the Bronx as well as the broader region, we've got Rey Hollingsworth Falu, who is the president of the Hudson Gateway Association of Realtors. And Rey, thank you so much for being with us, brother.
Thank you for having me.
Listen, as we talked about, I think it's safe to say buyer's market.
Well, right now in the Bronx, it is a balanced market.
Okay.
So in the region, we've had some areas where it's been a seller's market, which means we have 2 months of inventory, which simply means if nothing else came on the market in 2 months, all the inventory would be gone. Right now in the Bronx, there's about 6, maybe 7 months of inventory. So that is a balanced market. So you have folks from other areas who can come to the Bronx and find things at every price point.
Yeah. So let's take a look at some numbers now. You know, how are inventory levels really like shaping the market now?
Well, because we have a balanced market, there's a little bit of something for everybody in the Bronx. So for example, in the Bronx, we have condos and co-ops. The average price is about $275 right now, and it's been going up in the past, right? So the properties are becoming more expensive. For single-family houses, the average price in the Bronx right now is about $690,000. $690,000, which is a deal and a bargain in New York. Because in Westchester last year we passed $1 million for the median sale price, and in other boroughs it's more expensive. The average multifamily home is about $900,000 in the Bronx. And so there is a property for everyone depending on the price point in the Bronx. The interest rates are still somewhere in the high 5s, low 6s. So, and the rents are higher. So there's an opportunity for buyers to find something that meets their budget in the Bronx.
What are the numbers we're seeing right now? Are you seeing any particular trends?
Well, I'm seeing right now you have a lot of movement, right? Things are trading, so there's activity going on. The number of transactions has gone down a little bit, but that's not because there haven't been enough buyers, probably because there haven't been enough sellers and available inventory. So that New York and the country has an inventory problem. And realtors, I'm a president of the Hudson Gateway Association of Realtors. That's 13,000 realtors from Manhattan, the Bronx, Westchester, Rockland, Orange, and Putnam. We advocate for our buyers and sellers on all levels. So part of what we do is educating our consumers about what's available. We also advocate for them in government. So we are doing things on the local level, on the state level, on the federal level to bring more inventory into the market to make it easier for buyers and sellers to buy something and to sell something.
Of all the boroughs, which one's the hottest right now?
Oh, well, it depends on who you ask. I'm partial to the Bronx.
Right.
I love the Bronx. So there's activity happening in the Bronx. We've got Yankee Stadium. We've got the Best Tres Leches. We've got so many things in the Bronx, and we have access to all other areas. That's the great thing about the Bronx.
Right.
You can get to New Jersey. You can get to Connecticut. You can get to Westchester. You can get to New York City, everything within a half an hour. So the Bronx has been pretty hot.
Yeah. And for yourself, obviously, looking at the numbers right now, I mean, we're seeing record prices in terms of, you know, housing, in terms of paying for a house. People are asking, is it ever going to be a cooling off period? Do you think that's happening anytime soon?
Well, I don't see that happening, right? So I've been doing real estate for 20 years. In the past 20 years, the prices have been increasing. So in New York State, for example, let's take COVID, for example. COVID was a watershed moment because when COVID happened, the prices decreased and then right after shot right back up. So COVID was what, 5-6 years ago? In New York State, the price of real estate in New York State has increased 56.3% since COVID alone. That is the highest price appreciation we've ever recorded. So for those folks who know what's going on in real estate and paying attention, prices have been steadily increasing. This year in the Bronx, prices increased about 6-7%. Last year, from 2024 to 2025, we had a 22% price appreciation. That's how fast the market went up in the Bronx last year. So whether there's a recession or not, prices may come up and down, but over time, they're going to go up. So
we talked about the Bronx. You were hot on that. I asked you about New York City. Came with the Bronx. Let's dig down a little bit deeper. What areas of the Bronx are seeing, hot sales? What areas of the Bronx seeing cold sales? Let's start hot.
So we have hotness going on in Riverdale, Fordham, Mott Haven. There's anywhere where there's transportation access, you see a lot of activity going on. And anywhere where there's a diverse available inventory, right? You have multifamily, single families, condos and co-ops, and of course rentals, because New York City, 75% of all New York City is rental activity. So for someone who's looking to rent or someone who's looking to purchase, those different areas that have a mix of those things, those are the hotter areas.
Yeah. And as far as like not so hot, what are you seeing right now where somebody maybe get in? Well,
I think all areas have different things that are going on. I don't want to pick out a specific area that's not hot for the Bronx because it depends on it's seasonal as well. So for example, in the spring market that's coming up, right, we're just coming out of the winter market. We had a lot of snow. As soon as the summer hits, it's going to be like 70 degrees today. So the start of the spring market is going to bring a lot of new buyers into the market. it's going to bring a lot of new sellers into the market as well. So in other places where there's low inventory, even though we have balance, in other places where there's low inventory, like Westchester and Rockland and some of these counties, we have balance in our areas. Still, we're going to get new properties coming on the market. We're going to get more activity. So we may see more action going on.
Right.
So because the Bronx had a lot of multifamilies, we had about 500 and change transactions last year. We may see an increase of that this year, depending on if our interest rates stay within a reasonable rate.
I like how you handle that. All right, let me talk to you about first-time home buyers, because obviously that's the dream, right? That's the American dream. People want to be first-time home buyers. What are you seeing by way of first-time home buyers in New York City, given the fact that these prices is kind of high? You know, I was just having a conversation coming in today. People were talking about, well, you know, for what I pay for a house here in New York, you know, I could get something down south, maybe even two pieces of property down south. But so why would somebody be a first-time home buyer? Are you seeing an emergence of first-time home buyers over here?
We see plenty of first-time home buyers because they have a diversity to choose from, right? So a first-time home buyer can purchase a cooperative, which is a stock. They're actually owning stock in a corporation, and they get a proprietary lease. They can purchase a condo. Condos are about $330,000. Co-ops are in the 200s, right? So there's an affordable option. That is a way to own in the Bronx to start off. And then maybe if they build equity over time, they can trade up, right? They can sell that co-op or condo and purchase that house, or sell that co-op and condo and purchase that multifamily house if they want to live in it and be a landlord at the same time.
Right.
So these are options that allow them to start owning, right? Because the rental market in New York is expensive compared to other parts, right? But before we used to have the rent is too damn high party,
right?
And that may still be the case for some folks. So they can own almost at the same level that they can rent. And in the Bronx, there are plenty of options to do that.
Yeah. In the last segment, Joe and I were crunching numbers. Let's crunch numbers here for a minute, because obviously a lot is going to be determined through interest rates. A person being able to buy, sell, you know, interest rates are really key and critical. What can you tell us about the interest rate right now, and what do you foreseeing happening as we move towards spring?
Well, normally in real estate, when somebody buys a property, they hold it for about 7 years. That's the average. So what happened with interest rates, when interest rates went down to the 2s and 3%, those folks who would normally turn over their properties decided to keep those properties, because if they moved to something new, they were going to pay 6, 7, 8%. And why would I give up my 2 and 3% to pay 6, 7, 8%? So that's holding inventory in the market. So we're trying to find creative ways to allow those sellers who have been sitting on properties who normally would turn over, to allow them to either transfer the interest rate or give them an incentive to sell those properties, so we can get more turnover in the market. Because when there's less homes on the market, the prices shoot up. So interest rates has a direct correlation to the price.
Yeah, and we talk about price because price is going to be the driving factor for anybody that decides they want to purchase a home. What advice do you have for people right now who may be considering saying, listen, you know what, I'll try to wait. Maybe now's not a good time. Or, you know, do you say to somebody, now's the best time, you better get in while
Now's the best time. Now's the best time. So if we have this conversation for 10 years from now, the prices are going to make some eyeballs pop out for what today's price will be 10 years from now. If a person can afford to own now, they should meet with a realtor, they should meet with their lender, and sit and go over the numbers and figure out at what price point can they enter the market. Maybe they can't afford a house right now or a multifamily house. Maybe they can't afford a condo or a co-op, and they've been renting. So they should take care of that opportunity and look into purchasing a condo or co-op now, because that is going to appreciate over time, and they build equity over time. And that equity will help them move to the thing that they wanted to do, which is the house or the multifamily house. Because to be in New York, it's a great privilege, right? We have access to so much of the world. You can be in the Bronx or be in New York and feel like you're in different parts of the world depending on what neighborhood you're in. So you can't get that in other places.
Let's talk about our neighbors in Westchester County. What are they seeing? I mean, a lot of people we know have said, the Bronx is cool, being in New York City is good. Maybe I traverse north and go ahead towards Westchester County. What are we seeing in Westchester County?
Yeah, so Westchester County, we're seeing more price appreciation, lower inventory, right? It's tougher to find a house, multiple bids. If you're bidding on a house in Westchester, more than likely 99 to 98% of the time you're bidding at or above the asking price. And so those $1 million houses that are selling at Westchester, they're selling right away. Within 30 days, they're in contract. And so inventory is tight. And so you see a lot of price appreciation in Rockland and Orange because of that, because people are just starting to move north. That's why we're called the Hudson Gateway Association of Realtors. Bronx is the gateway to the northern part of the Hudson Valley.
Right.
So people have to come through the Bronx to come into the rest of New York, and that's what millions of folks are doing.
And as you look at this, you know, you see that people are buying houses that you said is the housing stock is being taken up. A word, if you will, about people who are having to pay either that price that the housing is, that the house is being sold for, or above, because we hear a lot more stories of people who are buying, above the asking price just to be able to get in.
Right. Well, folks, New Yorkers have money, right? So if they're buying a house, they see the value in it because they can get to New York in New York City in a short amount of time, and the house affords them something that they couldn't get in an apartment, right? They want the yard. They want to be able to have a dog. They want to be able to have the living room and the man cave or the she shed, whatever it is. That's going to help them grow their family. So realtors are there to help educate them, help them navigate that process, be their ally and in their corner so they can score when they're improving their life and the life of their family.
Have to check back with you to see how these things go as we get towards the summer.
Absolutely, Darren.
All right, Ray, good to have you, brother.
Good to be here.
Thank you for coming. All right, listen now, if you want more information, do yourself a favor. Visit the website, hgar.com, and I guarantee you can find out all that you need to know about the realty market, how to get in, and what you need to do to have a piece of the pie, if you will. All right, so stick around. We've got more show coming up. We'll be right back right after this.
We are the Eco Leaders. We learned that everything starts with ourselves. Then we have to educate ourselves. Then we have to build community and use our imagination.
There's a new channel to explore, and it's bringing the classics back to life. During the day, relive the Bronxnet originals that sparked conversations and built community. At night, dive into the hip-hop throwbacks that defined a generation. One destination, two powerful lineups. Now playing on Optimum Channel 952, Fios 2138, and streaming at bronxnet.tv. BX Legacy, where history meets the moment.
And welcome back. When we talk about cybersecurity, most of the focus is on active threats like malware and phishing and real-time attacks. But some of the biggest risks actually come from outdated exposed data, quietly lingering from old breaches. Many people are still using passwords that were compromised years ago. And cyber criminals, yes, they know it. So we're revisiting a conversation we had with Colette Tomasiak, who is also the Director of Product Marketing at SpyCloud. She explains how these hidden threats work and what organizations and individuals can do to protect themselves. Let's take a look.
Thank you for having me.
All right, I'm glad to have you. Listen, now I don't want to give out my information across this TV, but I will say this. When it comes to passwords, I'm not always as frequent as I need to be when making that change. And I just wonder if you could unpack that for me. How dangerous is it for me not to always be resetting my passwords?
This is the problem. I think a lot of people don't realize how much security they sacrifice in favor of convenience. And for us, we expect everything digital to be available to us instantaneously. So access to our bank account, access to our Amazon account, Target, anything that we do every single day, social media, shopping, finance, everything, we want access right away. Mm-hmm. For us, for that to be easy, we often reuse passwords or some variations of passwords across all these different sites. And think of it, our digital footprint is so vast and it continues to expand. So if you use one password, let's say Apple 123 for Amazon, and that website or that brand gets breached, but you also have Apple 123 across other things, it is so easy. People don't understand how easy it is for a bad actor or a cyber criminal to test that across other accounts and get access to not only Amazon, but get access to your bank, to your social media, to literally anything that is important to you that ties together your holistic digital identity.
So I know that, organizations, they really go through these changes sometimes about changing and, really cleaning up. How often should an organization, a person go through and make these sweeps?
So this is the one thing that I think people don't also talk about enough, especially for an organization. For an enterprise or a business, people often forget that it's not just me at this current employment and my password here that could potentially be a risk to the business. It is also my personal life. Again, it's people aiming for and looking for that convenience. People often use their same passwords in their personal life in their work account, or it bleeds over into the devices that we use. Like we get corporate issued devices, but how many times am I checking stuff on my mobile phone because I'm out on the go or dropping my kid off at school or something after school activities? So it's often as you possibly can. It's important to set up regular cadences to check passwords, to prevent password reuse, to even just look for exposures. But the one thing I think for people to make it less overwhelming is you first want to understand what all has been exposed. I think the easiest place for a business or even a person, individual like yourself, to check what exposures are tied to your personal identity, go to checkyourexposure.com. You can't even begin to remediate or change passwords or reset accounts if you don't know what all has been exposed. So something simple like checkyourexposure.com gives you that kind of overview, and then you know where to go. And then you can kind of decide, cool, every 60, 90 days, I should be checking my passwords or resetting things, or at least looking or monitoring for exposures to make sure my information is not out there. And it's not just the cadence, it's also try and diversify your passwords. Use a password manager and make sure each account has a unique password tied to it.
I want to talk about the individual and then the company as well. How do I know as an individual potentially that I'm at risk? And let's talk the same for a company.
Yeah. So an individual or even a company, it's kind of the same for both. You're going to see an uptick in activity that is not normal. You're going to get notifications as an individual on your phone or a text message. Oh, you have to pay this unpaid toll. Cool. I've had coworkers get toll messages or like phishing SMS messages for geographies where they don't even have toll roads and they're getting these fake messages. You're going to see an uptick in a text message from Amazon. Someone in this geographical location is trying to log onto your account. So you're going to see this anomalous behavior of activity and attempted access to your accounts from locations and places and devices that are not yours. For a business, they're going to start seeing an uptick in attempts. And again, it's tied to access. Someone trying to access a corporate application from a location that isn't normal for that employee. They're going to see potentially an uptick in fraud, in synthetic identities, all these activities that are outside the norm that probably are good indicators that you have stale credentials that are impacting your business or your personal accounts. And it is time to do a nice audit to get a grasp on things and remediate those exposed passwords.
So once I find myself and there's a breach and, we hear these breaches, what is the proper protocol after I hear? I might be tuning in to Open and Darren Jaime says there's been a breach and, credit bureaus have been breached or banks have been breached. What should I, the consumer, do upon hearing?
Yeah. So first thing to note, it's not if, it's when. So it will happen. So that's people often forget that as well. I think, and even earlier, like last year, there was the national public data breach. Almost everyone, the majority of Americans' social security numbers were exposed in addition to other PII and financial information. Step one, if you're notified and you're involved in a breach, is freeze your credit scores. Go to all 3 major credit bureaus and freeze your credit score and unlock it only when needed. And then step 2, again, you want to know what all has been exposed, which passwords, on which accounts, on which websites, what you need to remediate. Checkyourexposure.com is an easy one to kind of give you insight to the exact breaches that you're tied to. And then you know where you need to change passwords on those accounts. So criminals can't get access and they can't do fraud. They can't cause havoc and other digital activities that could impact either yourself as a person or an enterprise.
For a person out there that's watching saying, listen, you know what, I'm trying to do the best that I can. It seems like so much to keep up with. How do I go about balancing this in my day-to-day life? I mean, I've got to incorporate it as a part of my day-to-day life because guess what? If you're hacking into my bank account, I don't have any money, it becomes an immediate problem whatsoever. But how can a person go about better incorporating this in their day-to-day life that just becomes part of the routine?
Yeah, so I think one of the it's not a fail-safe either. Digital security is an ongoing and evolving thing we're going to have to keep an eye on. But a good step one, get a password manager. Again, you want to have unique passwords for every single account that you have in your personal and your work life. And usually enterprises have some kind of governance and mandates around the type of passwords that you can use and to make sure that they're unique. But step one, make sure you have different passwords for each account. Oh, how am I going to remember that? Great question. A password manager. That is like a nice, good one to make sure that all of your accounts are unique, but you still have access when you need it on your phone, on your laptop, without having to remember things or without having to rely on Post-its on your laptops or your screen with your exposed password. So that's a good step one. Just unique passwords, password manager, making sure that you're doing an audit, going to checkyourexposure.com, seeing if you have been exposed in a breach. And those are good basic steps to have. Once you get that in your like routine and system, it becomes a lot easier to control how your digital footprint kind of grows out from there.
So red flags and warning signs. I do want to talk about that for a second. That many times we miss the red flags and we miss the warning signs. What are they?
So red flags, usually it is attempted access. It could be like a credential stuffing attack if larger scale identities have been exposed in a breach. But the initial one is always attempted access. And again, whether that is for a single individual within your enterprise, it is multiple individuals in an enterprise, attempted access to your organization or to your accounts, that is not you, that is not your location, that is not your device, that is anomalous beyond what you do in your day-to-day. That is a good step one, that something's going on and you should probably change passwords so people cannot get access. Yeah. So you can terminate the sessions and make sure that no one that shouldn't be in there can get in there.
Yeah. I got to get to this before we wrap. SpyCloud helps people in terms of having that account take over. I want you to just share a little bit about that. Yeah. If somebody's, the work that you're doing there.
Yeah, so if you're looking to prevent ransomware and prevent account takeover or fraudulent transactions tied around protecting digital identities, and that includes everything past and present, what we do is identity threat protection that scales different elements of your organization to protect your employees, to protect your consumers from those targeted identity attacks, but also allows you to investigate further so you can stop fraud, stop ATO, and prevent bad actors from getting access to your corporate network.
Yeah, Colette Tomasiak, we got to leave it there, but I do want to get you to say 2 things before we go. Number 1, biggest mistake people make. Number 2, biggest thing people should remember.
Biggest thing people should remember is that breaches will happen, and it's a matter of ensuring that your passwords are diverse now, they're unique to different accounts, and that you're using some sort of password manager to make sure that you have control over your digital network and identity.
All right. You set me straight when we first got started. She checked me. She said it's not if, it's when. And so I think that's really important for us to remember. Thank you so much for being with us, Colette.
Thank you so much.
Good information there. Now, for more information, go ahead and visit the website at SpyCloud.com. We do have more here on Open right after the break, so don't leave us. We're coming right back in a few.
19.7% of Bronxites currently experience food insecurity. Meanwhile, instead of these nice, colorful foods, this is the best food that they have access to. If this sounds like you, there are a bunch of resources to get healthy food for free or cheap. If you want to help, you might consider donating or volunteering in one of these places. Community fridges like this one are all over the city and allow New Yorkers to conveniently donate extra food to people who might need it. Go to this link and find your nearest one. Food banks and pop-up events like these provide millions of healthy meals to families in need. These organizations are distributing meals to Bronxites as we speak and are always accepting donations and volunteers.
And welcome back. The month of March marks Social Work Month, a time to recognize professionals who work every day to support some of the most vulnerable and children we have in our communities. And right now in New York State, the need is urgent. In late 2023, there were over 10,000 certified foster homes, but only 15,000 children in need of placement. At the same time, youth mental health challenges remain high, with nearly 1 in 5 children nationally diagnosed with a mental, emotional, or behavioral health condition. Here now and sharing more about what it means for families and the role that social workers play, Jestin Jennings, Vice President of Foster Home Services, Preventive and ORR Programs at JCCA. And thank you so much, Jestin, for being with us.
Thank you, sir.
And thank you for the work that you do.
Thank you.
Very impactful in really shaping the lives of a lot of people. And as we were saying, there's a little disparity, right? You've got a great need, and then at the same time, not as many people maybe responding to the call.
Right.
Talk to me about that.
Yeah, so I mean, one of the things that, we really want to shine light on is that we don't have as many families as we need, right? When you don't have as many families that you need for youth in foster care, one of the three things that kind of stand out to me are that you have youth who are displaced further from their homes, further from their communities and or families. And then you also are relying on those same foster parents to take in kids, as well as you don't have a great pool of foster parents that can match to the many different needs that our young people face. So, when you talk about, all of the things that come with that, some of our young people really do struggle with a lot of different mental health needs, behavior health needs, educational needs, and just in general, having that pool, a diverse pool of foster parents can really help support young people.
So I know you're doing great work over at JCCA. For people who may not be so familiar with the organization, just walk us through it a little bit about the work that JCCA does and your role there.
Okay, yes. So JCCA has been around for almost 200 years. With that, they provide children and family services. Most importantly, they do residential work, and then we also have the foster care work, where I'm specifically the VP for foster care services and prevention services. So within foster care, we provide recruitment for foster parents, training for foster parents, support for foster parents, as well as case planning, case management, educational supports, and then in general, just a core of supports for JCCA. We offer educational supports, medical and behavioral health and mental health supports for young people on campus as well as in foster care.
Yeah. And for yourself, obviously, you know, this is a very special month, right? We talked about Social Workers Month.
Yeah.
A lot of this with foster care does not happen without social workers.
Yeah.
How important are they in the work that you do?
They're very important. I mean, they're the backbone to what we do every day. I mean, you know, you take the core of what a young person is, and, you know, they're in the system where they're alone, and you have this, you know, case planner, or, you know, a social worker who's the connection and the connector to foster parents, to the families, to, you know, education, to, you know, mental health. And so they are really driving where this case goes. And so with that being said, without a social worker kind of connecting all of these different dots, you know, you have dysfunction, right? And a kid who's already coming from dysfunction or coming from a traumatic experience, that only makes that even worse. So, you know, really it's, you know, just want to say thank you to all of our social workers who we have working for us and doing the work, because it is a thankless job, right? And so one of the things that I look at it as is that at the core value of social work, there's that altruistic kind of mentality, right? That selfless concern or welfare of others. And so I like to think that that's where we are trying to, you know, where social workers are really kind of that driving force for cases.
Yeah. You know, in the job of a social worker, finding that stable home for, you know, for a young person, that family. But we know that there's some barriers there.
Right.
Many of us on the outside don't really know what they are.
Yeah.
But can you take us a little bit behind the scenes and give us a little bit about, because people say, hey, there's this gap here, but why is this gap happening?
Yeah, and I think there's a couple different areas. I mean, one of the things I really focus on is really just the different needs of our young people, right? And so, and I think just the awareness about, you know, folks just coming to the table thinking that they have to have or know it all in terms of being a foster parent, right? Like, you know, it's definitely can be a challenge, but that's where JCCA is there to provide you with that support, that training, and those resources to really help young people. And so the barriers that I kind of, you know, when I really look at it, it just goes back to saying, okay, how well do we understand our young people, and how well can we best match them with foster parents? And so to do that, we have to recruit a diverse group of foster parents in all areas, right? You know, whether it be, you know, you don't have to have it all to be a foster parent. We just want you to just understand that, you know, you understand the traumatic experience of these kids and be there and be willing to be a support for young people.
You know, a lot of our young people today are dealing with a lot of behavioral issues, right? Mental challenges, emotional challenges, things like that. Yeah. And it seems to be a number, I mean, it doesn't seem to be, it is what's happening. It's more prevalent in our community. Is this one of the barriers that people say, I don't want to take this on because I'm recognizing these numbers are like up there and I don't know if I have the energy, or, you know, I got a good heart, but maybe I don't have the capacity.
Yeah, no, that's spot on. I mean, you know, one of those issues that we face is that, you know, you get a young person that goes into a home, and that young person, you know, doing that matching process, demonstrate a different set of behaviors. And now that they're coming, they're adjusting to that home, they're adjusting the structure, they're adjusting to just that parental style. And now you have that young person displaying kind of those different triggers that might, you know, kind of set off their trauma response. And so now that foster parent doesn't understand how to necessarily cope or manage or deal with that. And so I think that's where the true part of this comes, the work comes in from us as an agency, or just within this work, is really how do we provide support and training and really understand that matching process for a young person and a family, and making sure that we're putting them in a predicament for that kid to be successful, as well as that foster home, that foster family. And then that's also about understanding that true lens of a kid and where they come from and what does that mean for family connection, and hopefully bridging those two gaps together to really help support that system, because it's not just the foster parent by themselves, it's the foster parent, it's the family, and it's really, you want to kind of gel those two together to really help make a true support system for that young person in care.
You've got boots on the ground, so we can do a quick flyover on this here for somebody who may be thinking about becoming a foster parent. Somebody might say, listen, I want to do this, but I think this is too much for me. Sometimes it's not. Right. They just don't know what it takes. Right. So how do you answer the person that says, what does it take for me really to be a foster parent?
Yeah, I think it just takes caring, man. Just, you know, don't want to do more for others, you know, and look at kind of what you have around you. And, you know, I like to look at it from a situation of, you know, how can I help better someone else's life who might not have the experiences that my kids had or somebody else might have had. And so just coming to that conversation with just open, you know, mindset and just that will to want to do for others, I think that's where, you know, the strength lies. And especially here in New York, right? Like, that's just the strength of the city, right? We all come together to kind of, you know, even through COVID and all these other things, that really kind of help support one another. And that's the same thing with foster care, right? It's like, how do we bridge these communities together to support young people and really help them, because they have dreams too, right? Like, you know, they have dreams, they have aspirations, they're kids, they have the same thing that, you know, my kids may want to be, or anybody else's kid. And so, you know, we just want to make sure we can provide those opportunities for them.
And so what's the message for people out there when it comes to children and foster care from your mouth?
I think the message is just, you know, we need you. You know, we need more foster families. You know, but also we want to make sure that our kids have access to be able to do things that other kids get to do. And I think really just being able to bring, you know, folks together to understand that need and understand that, you know, these kids have traumatic experiences. These kids have, you talked a little bit earlier about the kind of behavior and that you've gone through. Those are just traumatic experiences. So really, the honestly is just understanding this population just like we would with any other population, and understanding the need and how can we best meet that.
You know, we talked a little bit about the families and social workers a little bit earlier. We talked about the possible for, you know, the fact of how overwhelming it could be. When you have, you know, social workers who are really doing this work, working between the families and the children and JCCA and other outside, there could be a potential right there for some heavy lifting. How do we work and guard social workers? You know, we talk about parents being burnt out. How do we deal with social workers and the whole fact of being burnt out?
Yeah, I mean, within social work, we always talk about self-care, right? Like, you know, we are our own tools, right? And so if we're not at our best, we can't help support other folks at their best. So for me, that starts with supervision, that starts with coaching, that starts with just agency culture, right? In terms of how well do we treat our case planners and our case managers, and then, in a sense, you know, how well do we really support their well-being when they need, you know, resources, or when they need training, and when they really need support around their tough cases, right? Because like you said, it's not just the youth, the foster parent, and that parent. It's also that social worker that's involved that also is managing multiple cases with different layers of issues going on. And so for us, it's really about understanding our workers, you know, really coming through and how do we start from day one from training? How do we start day one from matching in with social supervisors? And then ultimately, how do we promote self-care and those workers really kind of taking time for themselves?
So for somebody who's thinking about becoming a social worker, right? What advice do you give them? Because you know, we see that career is, you know, it needs improvement. But at the same time, we also know it's very rewarding. What advice do you give somebody who's thinking about it?
I mean, for me, it's just about, you know, as you find something you want to do, I feel like it's a calling, right? Like, you know that you're not going to be able to save the world, but you can save one person, right? And so if you can at least come in with that mindset of understanding that the highs, you know, the highs and lows kind of, they have very ebb and flows with that, and that you just a person that can create change, and that you being in this profession, you will get to do that a lot more than, you know, than what you might get to do in any other profession, and just understanding that we need you and that families need you. And so this is a really good part of the work.
Thank you, Justin, for coming and sharing. I appreciate the work that you're doing, and really how all that you're doing to make a difference in the lives of individuals and families as well. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
I also realized I missed the bow tie memo. Like you, Ray, I didn't get the memo. Since what you got today, maybe next week will be a little bit different. Jestin Jennings, thanks so much for being with us, brother.
Thank you.
All right. Listen, now, if you want more information about this, join, or I should say visit the website at jccany.org. Want to let you know we come to the end of our show today. Want to thank all of our guests for joining us, and most of all, you, the viewer, for tuning in. Now, if you missed any part of today's show, you, of course, can catch the Recablecast on Optimum's Channel 67, Verizon Files, Channel 2133, or watch us anytime on the web at bronxnet.org. You catch a brand new episode of Open with my girl, Rena Valentine, on Friday. And this about wraps up this episode for us. I am Darren Jaime. Good to see all of you. Want to tell you, make sure you keep this channel wide open. We are saying take care, God bless. We'll see you soon.